We'll talk. Okay, we're ready to start now. We've got a lot of people joining us today. It's very exciting. I'm so excited to have with us here. I'm WendyPerrin, for those of you joining and don't recognize me by now. I'm WendyPerrin, and today we've got with us our team, as well as several WOW List trusted travel experts who are based in different countries in Europe. And we're very excited to update you all on what's happening right now as Europe reopens to US travelers. I'm going to tell you all the real reason I wanted to have this Zoom call, which is that every day I'm hearing from travelers, and I'm hearing from travelers who decided to vacation in the US this summer. And so many of them there are so many, like whether they're in Cape Cod, or they're trying to rent a house on the beach, or they're driving through the Smoky Mountains, or they're in California, including my husband in Sonoma County right now. It just seems like there are a lot of problems that are running into with like rental cars being unavailable, flights being canceled, hotels, not having the service that they normally have. I'm hearing all of these problems with travel in the US right now because all these people feel like they have to vacation in the US this summer. At the same time, I'm hearing from all these travelers who are in Europe or coming back from Europe, having the most wonderful time, not having any issues, and just like surprised and delighted and coming back and regaling me with these awesome stories. So that's why I really wanted to have this call, is I feel like right now this summer is this really unusual opportunity to experience a wonderful European vacation as those countries open up. It's a time when American travelers are getting such a warm welcome, and there are so few crowds. And so first of all, I want to introduce Billy Cohen on our team. Billy and I worked together for years at Condé Nast Traveler. And so she's used to traveling all over the world, but she just got back from 14 days in Greece, France, and Spain as they reopened. And Billy, why don't you tell our guests here today, what surprised you the most?
First I should say it was amazing to be back out in the world, and it was such a great trip, and it was so rejuvenating, and I can't wait for all of you to have the same experience. What was most surprising was how easy it was. I think like what Wendy's saying with our readers, I sort of expected there to be hurdles and just complications, or there to be sort of a low level stress throughout the whole thing. None of that. It was so easy. Things like, and I took trains, I took planes, I took ferries. So all the logistics were super easy. I had to get tested a couple of times as I was traveling. That was all very easy. Everything was open. Eating was wonderful and easy. Museums were open. In places like Greece, everything's outside anyway, so that was super easy. And the experience of interacting with people who live in the places that I visited was really wonderful too. They were so happy to see me. But it was really nice to have that kind of warm welcome, and to have that sort of shared bond of like, oh, we all just went through this thing that was tough, but it's great to see you. So that was sort of an unexpected bit of joy too, some sharing in that experience in a way that I think maybe has been different before. Obviously we haven't had a pandemic before, but I mean that sort of interaction with locals is a little different now that we've all kind of been through this global thing together, and we're all so happy to be back out together. But I think I was most surprised about the logistics and things that I thought would be stressful being easy.
Mm-hmm. Can you show us some of your photos you shot?
Sure. You've all seen a lot of my photos in my article, so I apologize. These are repeats, but I have so many more if anyone wants to see them. So this was Athens, was my first stop, and this blew my mind. I mean, last time I was at the Acropolis, it was not this empty. I didn't have to wait for anyone to move out of my shot. There was just nobody there. And I had this experience with my guide there that I had repeatedly throughout my trip, where the guide was floored. And he or she would say, never been like this before in every place we went. So that was pretty amazing. And it was a real treat to see that. This is on Naxos, the first Greek island that I visited. And again, everything, once you get to the islands, everything is outside anyway, and nothing had changed. This was one of the beach venues where you can rent a chaise lounge. It wasn't too crowded. People were out. It was beautiful. It felt totally normal. And then next, this is in Paros, and I included this one to show you what it's like to eat outside. You're eating outside in Greece anyway. This is where you want to be. You want to be on these cute little whitewashed alleys and eating at these tavernas outside. So nothing had changed with that experience. The Greek lifestyle is already outside. So that felt very safe and very easy, and like nothing had changed since the last times I'd been there. And I just loved it. And this was, I tried to eat late, but I'm not such a late person. So that was at maybe 9:30, and it still wasn't very crowded. Okay, I'm including this one because there's a comparison. So this is the Louvre. This is the Mona Lisa room. And it was completely empty. As soon as I went to the Louvre, where there was no line, I immediately went to see the Mona Lisa, because I figured if there's any crowd anywhere in this museum, this is where it's going to be. You can see it's empty. So this is June 2021. And Christine, will you show the next photo? This is when Wendy went to the same room in 2012. So, and I remember this picture as soon as I walked into the room. So that's why I took it at that angle, just to show that difference. I mean, there's never a time when you're going to be able to see the Mona Lisa up close and personal and basically alone. I didn't have to wait at all to see it, and I didn't have to share the room with anyone. It was like the best gift. And then, so this was brunch on a Saturday in Paris at Les Imagots, which is a super popular place. And everyone was eating outside. It was very relaxed. It was festive in Paris. When I was there, the curfew had just been extended from 9 to 11, and now there's no curfew at all. And masks aren't, Jennifer confirmed the dates. The mask mandate is lifted as well. So it's even more, it's probably even better now, but everything was going on as normal. People were going to get their baguettes in the morning and eating at beautiful brunch places. It was a really fun time to be in Paris. And June is the best time to go, I should say. It stayed late until 10 o'clock at night. And it's just more time to get in all the way to Paris. And then I got to Barcelona, and I went to this huge tourist attraction, right? The Sagrada Familia. And it was also empty. I walked up with my guide, Jordy, and this area in front of the church is usually elbow to elbow with people, with cruise passengers. There was not a cruise ship anywhere in port. And this street was so empty that the city had put up a market instead. And my guide, Jordy, he was like, what? I've never seen it like this. You could never have put a market here before. So this was outside. And then I think the next picture is a picture inside. So you can see how few people are there. So you could walk around the entire place. It was very open. I think I stayed in here for 2 hours. It was just beautiful to look at. Then I think the next photo might be Madrid. Yeah, so there's another question I know people are probably curious about is like, what's the eating scene and the tapas scene like in Spain? So I went out for tapas in Madrid and Barcelona. And this is in Madrid. The difference now with tapas is, well, it's not like a mosh pit when you walk into the bar. You don't have to elbow your way to the bar. You have to sit down and you have to order with a QR code. But as you can see, people were still out, and we were allowed to eat indoors in Spain. All over Spain, you can eat inside. The food was still great. The people were still warm and friendly, and it was still a lot of fun. And so that was what that was like. And then you could also eat outside, and a lot of people were taking advantage of that as well. This is in Barcelona, in a square by a church next to Santa Maria, and everyone was just out. I don't know, it was just so relaxed. Everywhere I went, people were just enjoying being outside and eating and going about their daily business, and it didn't feel stressful or unsafe at all. I had a great time.
Billy, I think there's a lot of anxiety among travelers about testing. A lot of people are worried about getting the test in order to travel. And of course, we keep letting everybody know of all the countries where you don't even need any pre-trip testing. as long as you're vaccinated, you'll be let in. But then people are worried about the test they need to take before coming back to the US. Can you just tell us, like, I mean, you found the testing to be really, you did 2 tests, right? You did a test in Greece so you could get into France, and then you did a test in Spain so that you could come home. What was
Right,
it like
right.
each one?
It was easy. And I'll tell everyone that Brooke and I are writing an article about our experiences getting tested in various places around the world, and we'll put that in the newsletter this weekend. So sign up for the newsletter. It was super easy. I had to get tested to go from Greece to France, and I used one of the WOW listers help me arrange that. A doctor came right to the hotel, took the test right before I went out on my tour for the day, and then emailed the results to my phone. And then I had the hotel print out the document so that when I checked in from my flight, I had it right there, and it was super easy. And then when I left Spain to come back to the US, because I see there's a question here about getting a test to come back to the US, it can be a PCR or an antigen test, which makes things a lot easier as well. So you can get a rapid test. I Googled, Brooke helped me, we Googled in like 5 minutes, had a great clinic right by the hotel. My guide took me there in Madrid. I was in and out in 5 minutes, faster than any test I've ever taken in New York. And 15 minutes later, I had the results on my phone. It was just all so easy. And knowing also that I had the support of the WellList travel specialists that had my back and were there helping me find things, and also the guides who spoke the languages in case there was a problem, but there was no problem. That was really helpful too. So it was much easier than I expected it to be. And if you're using if you have the right contacts and the right support, it's almost not something you have to think about. Right. I mean, other than, I'm just going to stick something up.
Right. Well, speaking of contacts and support, we've got some wonderful European contacts and support with us today. Our trusted travel experts from the WOW list, who are helping travelers every day to solve all these problems and in fact prevent any kind of problems in their countries. So first we have Gonzalo Correa, who is in Portugal. Gonzalo, you've been there through the pandemic, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Hi, Wendy. Good evening here from Portugal. Yes, I've been through the pandemic, always permanently here in Portugal. Even if I wanted to go to some places, there weren't too many that people were allowed to. But life is pretty much back to normal, I would say. In fact, I sent you guys a picture. If you can show that, Christine, that basically shows. This is just a normal street in Lisbon. There's people out, but without the crowd, because it's a slowly restart. But life is pretty much getting back to normal. And I even have one with my two little boys. This is one that we were there. There we go. This is just by one of the most crowded places that you can imagine. The line to get into this is a World Heritage Monument. It's a tower. It is the Belém Tower, and the line goes on for at least an hour to get in. This is just at sunset when it's super crowded, and here's my two little boys just riding his bike, and we're all out there, and we just had a custard tart minutes before, and there they are. Life is pretty much back to normal. Now, one of the things that I've also noticed, because everyone and all the travelers that I've been talking to, they want to travel to Portugal these days. They want to be outside. They want to be out in the open. This is one of the most beautiful beaches in the Algarve. It's normally packed with umbrellas. These are all very, very recent pictures, okay? This is not from like a million years ago. This is from like weeks or some days ago. And this is all you see now at the beach. So there's hardly any people in there. And you can pretty much enjoy the seaside. There's a couple of restaurants just here where you can eat in the same kind of relaxed way. as some of the pictures that you were seeing from Barcelona or Greece. And on another topic, if you go to one of the next pictures, Christine, if you don't mind, one of the things that you will notice is that so many nationalities aren't still allowed back into Europe, especially into Portugal, like Asian countries and Australians, for example. This is the cloisters of the most visited monument in the whole country. It's the monastery of Jerónimo, right in the center of Lisbon. I can assure you that this is not after hours. I didn't pay like 50,000 euros to get in. This is just a real picture of something that you would only see head on where you have the lawn right now. This is on the upper floor. There's normally lines of hours to get into this place, and now it's just easy to, it's probably going to stay like this throughout the summer. Either it's because people are still, taking their time, but it's really a great time to travel to Portugal right now because you get this. The most visited sites, well, they're just there for you to experience. They're still there, just waiting for people to show up. And this is one that I thought it would be fun to show for the more adventurous travelers that want to be out and about, as I did with my family. This is called the Passadiços do Paiva. It's a long hiking trail along a really beautiful nature section with rivers and beautiful trees. And you can hike for a couple of hours. And as you can see, there's just pretty much you in the nature. This is normal opening hours. And if you don't want to stay in the city, you can just go out to the countryside, and this is what you're going to experience.
Cool. It looks beautiful. Oh, and what is this? Is this a church?
It's the same church as before. The cloisters, this church, if we were to be here in 2018, you would not see any of these benches because they would be super packed with people. From the very first one near the altar to the very first one at the back. And it's completely and totally empty right now. It's a World Heritage Site, and it has the same type of line as in the Sagrada Familia. That was just one of the pictures that Bill was showing.
Mm-hmm. And Gonzalo, what is the restaurant scene right now in Portugal? Is there indoor dining?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there a curfew for outdoor dining? What's the situation? Can you eat similarly to how you would normally eat in Portugal, or is it really restricted?
Not at all. You can eat indoors, just like in any normal restaurant. You can. The only thing that is a limitation this far is that most restaurants will not be allowed to have a group larger than 6 sitting on the same table. Normally, when there's more than 6, they'll just put 2 tables nearby. Outdoors, it's up to 10 people. And when you go to the washroom and back, or to pay the bill, if you need to go by the counter, you need to wear a face mask because you're indoors. Outdoors, as long as you're allowed to keep social distancing, you don't have to use a mask. Apart from that, there's the curfew has been limited up to early June, but it's now up to 1 o'clock in the morning to most restaurants. That was their normal working hours. And apart from that, life is pretty much back to normal when you're eating out. In fact, I was just commenting with a client that was a little worried a couple of hours ago, a client that is traveling to Portugal, because they read that there were rising cases in Lisbon and they were thinking about a major lockdown in Lisbon, but that's not really at all the case. I just went out for lunch with my wife and we were both having a great time. There were, if those travelers are planning to come to Lisbon and they read about this, it's a prevention measure that's the authorities are during the weekend in certain hours, they're asking people from Lisbon to stay within Lisbon and not go to other areas spending their weekend. But it's just the weekend, and it's not related at all to foreigners. It's national. Okay.
Great. Okay. Well, Gonzalo, thank you so much. Let's move along now. Christine, can we move along to Malta? Excellent. And Damon Camilleri Allen. Damon, you've been in Malta through much of the pandemic. And we'd love to hear from you. I mean, I think, a lot of people, they want to be on an island right now. Islands are very outdoorsy. Malta is probably my favorite Mediterranean island. It's such a gem. It's just so beautiful and historic and such a crossroads of cultures. So Damon, tell us a bit about what it's like now on the ground in Malta.
Well, there's no better place to be. Today, no new cases of the virus, and we have only 26 active cases throughout the islands. And I say islands because it's an archipelago, 3 main islands of a population of close to 500,000. So we're doing really, really well. And really since the pandemic hit, we've been very keen on safety. We still wear masks in public, and that's a good thing. Because we don't want to blow a great thing that's going on with Malta. We're open to tourism. Just last week, a week and a half ago, we've green-lighted 40 U.S. states, including District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, there was 10 left off the list. That's Alabama, Arkansas, Kansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, Utah, and Wyoming. But we'll likely see that change very, very soon. In terms of vaccinations, we have 57.7 exactly percentage of the population fully vaccinated, and it's wonderful. We're seeing Valletta and all other areas of Malta really coming back to life. It's wonderful to see. And if you want to, Christine, bring up the first slide. I love this picture for a few different reasons. And some of you may be watching me be going, wow, amazing. Some of you may be cringing. Some of you love cruise ships. Some of you don't. To be honest, if you're on a cruise ship coming into Malta, it's one of the most beautiful entry points to really going into the Grand Harbor. It's so historic. But the reason why I show this picture mainly is to illustrate that we have one cruise ship maximum a day. So the crowds that people might experience on specifically a Wednesday are just not there anymore. You can bring up the next slide, please. Billy, in one of her pictures in the newsletter of the Louvre, the line that wasn't there. Similarly, I took this picture last week of St. John's Co-Cathedral, arguably the most important attraction, most visited attraction in all of Malta. No line. It's fantastic. Now, I should note that even if there is a line, exclusively Malta is able to get you past that line. That's not a problem. But it's just, if you can show the next slide as well. Similarly to the Greeks, as Billy brought up, that the Greeks love to live outside their home, very much an outside culture. So are the Maltese. Here's another view of Valletta, one of its most, well, we have several cute streets in Valletta, which I like to call the New York City of Europe, because it was a planned city and built on a grid. It's just a lovely time. Next slide, please. Malta is relatively small. We're talking 122 square miles, again, with a population of 500,000. And one of the most beautiful things during the pandemic, or even outside of the pandemic, is 10, 15 minutes maximum, you can be in the countryside, truly open air. Some of the best experiences are the countryside, rural experiences. This is the Dingley Cliffs, for example. So if you ever want to leave the hustle and bustle of Valletta, St. Julian's, or Sliema, you're looking literally at maximum 25-minute drive to experience this beautiful location. Next slide, please. And more than just that, Malta is about, exclusive Malta specifically about the private experiences you can enjoy. So it's a great time to visit the Maltese Islands because of the lack of mass tourism that can be affected, especially in summer. But we pride ourselves in being able to deliver Maltese experience in the most authentic way. And a lot of that is behind closed doors. So this just illustrates the point of the attention that we take to providing the best possible cultural experiences.
Well, great. Damon, thank you very much. That's, you have to wonder what's behind that door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that update. And now let's move along to, we've got Nina Mueller from Switzerland. Nina has been in Zurich through the pandemic. And Nina, it's so exciting that Switzerland is going to be opening up on June 28th, and no testing will be required to get in, and no quarantine or anything. It's just if you're vaccinated, right? I mean, if you're vaccinated, it's just your vaccination card. But can you tell us a little bit about what you're expecting?
So, well, thank you very much, Wendy, for actually organizing this event today, because it was today that the Swiss government officially announced that as of Monday, all US travelers that are vaccinated can enter without any, well, just with the vaccination card. And because we know there might be many families listening, there's kids below 16, they do not need to show any vaccination proof if they're traveling with their parents. So it's great for family trips. Anyways, Switzerland has been amazing with putting in concept throughout the tourism industry. We have a label that every association can join. So a lot of restaurants, hotels, events, museums, it's called Clean and Safe. It's a little symbol that you can see. If you Google it, you will find a lot of information to help tourists find ways and places that actually they guarantee that these places are checked to follow the governmental restrictions for COVID. If you would show the first slide, please, Christine. So I don't know, Switzerland, we're a small landlocked country compared to Malta. We don't have the beautiful islands and cruise ships. We're more about the nature and the outdoors. And as you can see on this picture, there's some of the famous hiking routes right now where you have absolutely nobody. So the only tourists that you actually would find on those hiking routes right now are the Swiss crowds. So that kind of feels still authentic because you'll hear the Swiss Germans speaking. If you continue, Christine, please, Christine. What is important to know is even the mountain places. So this picture is actually in Zermatt. There's a lake that you can even wakeboard on and everything in the Zermatt area with views on the Matterhorn. If you continue, please, you can see you will always find a seat front row, even at a beach in a mountain place, which is not usually normal. And then you can go to Chevroni, where you can enjoy a glass of champagne with this view onto the most photographed mountain of the world, just enjoying this. And even, just continue. I'll follow my speech to the pictures. And then this is actually the Thrill Walk. So it's on the Schildhorn. It's the James Bond mountain, basically, where the movies were filmed. Usually it's very crowded, but wonderfully at this point, you can just walk with your free view, take your time to take the pictures. A big advantage about Switzerland is also we have a lot of boutique cities, so it's all rather open. We're not a really mass tourism place anyway, except maybe for cities like Lucerne, where we have a lot of buses coming from different tourist places, and even those places were usually already at 7-8 a.m. in the morning. You feel like the crowds are coming in. You can walk freely through the cities. I think I mentioned the most important. Again, Switzerland is no mass destination. So, the castle in Bellinzona. So imagine this is a UNESCO heritage site, usually full of people. Also, you see the green grass from the far away now. So you can see the space, the even extra space you have. But this picture also really nicely demonstrates the vast nature that you can enjoy if you're still not feeling safe due to the virus. Restaurants are open. Actually, today they also announced that no masks have to be worn in the outdoors or any spaces. For instance, like here in Meuren, which is close to the Schildhorn, Jungfraujoch, top of Europe. I tell you something funny. So many Swiss have never been to the Jungfraujoch. It's one of the main tourist attractions in Switzerland. And I think now if you enter the trains, it's only Swiss because everybody's going up there now to experience it. Now finally, because usually it's safe. And they have very good deals actually on the train tickets, first class train rides. I think a picture will follow with a boat where you're in a first class boat ride where you're alone. So it's really, here you go. So this is one of the steamboats on the lakes where you find a space to sit, no reservations required, gives you full flexibility. And don't worry if you don't make it right now to come to Switzerland. We will always find a spot for you to be comfortable here because we love to take care of Wendy's clients as good as possible. And we hope that we could inspire a little bit to come to our beautiful country.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Nicole. I'm inspired. Let's move right along to Italy. Everyone always, we're just like bombarded with questions about Italy every day. Jennifer Virgilio, who is based in Rome and who has spent a lot of the pandemic in Italy and in Rome, is here to tell us about the current situation. Jennifer, what's happening right now?
Hi, Wendy. Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's all very positive. It's really everything has changed within the last few days. Even yesterday, it was announced that as of Monday, we don't have to wear masks outside anymore. All regions will be white. So it's all looking very up. All like I said, very positive. I was just out to dinner just a little while ago, and people are outside, people are walking around. It's very active. We've had many arrivals even within the last few days. Yesterday we had a big arrival, and they've also changed the restrictions. So now if you're vaccinated, there's no more COVID-free flights. The COVID-free flights are basically out the window. Anyone that's arrived since Monday and they're on one of those nonstop flights that were previously called COVID-free are not anymore. They don't have to do the COVID tests at the airport anymore. So you're free to arrive and go on your way as an American.
Wait, do you mean if you're vaccinated, you don't need a test before getting there?
Exactly. You know how before, I'm sorry, my dog.
Wow.
Yes, it's great news. So we had arrivals on Monday and Tuesday on the COVID-free flights. And previously everything was all about the COVID-free flights and that you needed to have the negative test. Excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry, it's late at night here. I have my dog barking and my family. I just wanted to shut my door. So basically everything was about the COVID-free flights, and you had to have a negative test, and you had to have, what didn't matter if you were vaccinated. Now the restrictions and the rules have all changed. So basically, if you're vaccinated, you're okay. If you're not vaccinated, then you need a negative test. And you can come in through the EU, you can connect anywhere in the EU to arrive and not have to quarantine, where previously everybody was trying to get on those COVID-free nonstop flights. So it's all very positive.
Awesome. And you have some photos to show us?
Yes, I've been traveling around a little bit. So I did a tour. It's not the best picture of me, but it's a great picture of the Roman forums because you could see how empty it was and is. So this was a few weeks ago, and the Roman forums were completely just empty. It was like a dream. I was at the Capitoline Museums with some of our guides, just having a recap and a refresher. And you can see the Colosseum there in the background. So extremely quiet and beautiful, and a nice way to see the city.
what are I'm curious, what are the situations with indoors at museum? There's so many museums, you know, in Italy. Do you wear masks indoors?
We still wear masks. We're
Okay.
still wearing masks here until Monday.
Okay.
So we still wear masks indoors, and as of Monday, outdoors you don't have to wear a mask, but indoors you still do need to wear a mask. This picture is of Piazza del Popolo, which you can see was set up for the Euro Cup, which we had the opening match of the Euro Cup here in Rome, and we had spectators at the match. And it was very vibrant and festive, and it was so nice to see a stadium with people in it. And they had fireworks, and it was wonderful. And they have this whole fan festive area in Piazza del Popolo. So this is the setting up, but this is a Saturday in Piazza del Popolo with nobody around. So I just thought, wow, I mean, it was exciting that they were setting up, but at the same time, there was nobody around on a Saturday in the center of Rome. So it just goes to show how empty it still is, the city. This is a train station. In May, I was heading up to Milan, to Lake Como in the morning. It was the 18th of May, 7:15 in the morning, and very empty. It was a weekday. Normally, it would be packed full of people commuting, and the train, you know, it was just incredible to see the train station so empty like this. And I don't know what picture's next.
That's your daughter.
Oh, you have my daughter. Okay, there she is. Yeah. So 3 weeks ago, we were in Positano, and we decided to. It was a bank holiday here in Italy, so I missed it because I was working. So we ended up taking the weekend instead, and we went to Positano. And again, in June in Positano, to see so few boats on, you know, in the sea, sailing around or just right there. That is Positano right there. So normally it's just packed with boats and there's nothing there. And even last summer it was like this. You know, I was able to count on the 4th of July last summer, 5 boats that I saw on the 4th of July, which is usually like it's the busiest period in the Amalfi Coast. So it's been incredible, and no big buses and so on. This is just to see an aperitivo at one of the hotels in Positano, how it's still very relaxed in style. People are outside, you're, you know, listening to live music. People are sitting without their masks, enjoying the ambiance, the beauty, and the music.
Awesome. Are we through with is that the last photo, Christine?
We might have some Lake Como coming up.
There we
I'm
go.
not
Great.
sure.
Oh, yes. Beautiful. Wow.
So again, I went up. This is one of the villas in Lake Como, and it was in the morning. So I will say it was a bit early in the morning, but still, I mean, to see nobody around at you know, the villas or at the hotels on the lake in height of the season, May, on Lake Como. It was pretty spectacular. But the people that were there, you can see were really, well, you can't really see in this picture, but I mean, they were really enjoying. They were outside, they were at the pool. I mean, they're not wearing masks at the pool, and you know, just enjoying the scenery. Again, no boats. This is just before lunch. This is the height of the day. So normally at this time of day, you would see lots of boats, you'd see lots of people. And the beauty and the scenery is just spectacular. I'm not the best photographer, but at least you get to see true pictures.
Yep. That's what's great about all these photos is they're real, you know.
They're real.
Yeah, they're real. Well, great. Jennifer, thank you so much. Oh, good. Okay. So now we get to see everybody a little more up close and personal. And I see Brooke. Brooke, do you want to unmute yourself? And everybody, you all know Brooke by now. She answers so many of your questions when you write into us. Have you been looking at the questions coming in? Maybe we can ask some.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'll start with a question for Billy. One of our viewers asked, why did you have guides in each location, given your world wisdom?
I'm laughing at world wisdom. because
But you are a
guides
very
are,
experienced traveler.
and guides are part of the reason. I back up. I mean, if you think of a guide as just someone who's going to point out the places you're looking at and names and dates, that's not what the best guides are. I mean, I'm nerdy. I like that kind of stuff. But the best guides, and the reason that I like to travel with them, is because similar to what Damon was saying, they open doors and they open your eyes. And it was in every place that I visited on this trip and in my previous trips, it's like having a local friend with you. They not only tell you the history, if you're interested in that kind of thing, or skip it entirely if you're not, but they'll talk to you about what it's like to live in a place. They'll share their favorite chocolate places, which I always ask about, or their personal experiences, which is especially interesting now as the world is opening up after COVID. But also, if you have a particular interest that you want to know about, they can pivot on a dime and make it happen. I remember I went on a trip to Italy a couple of years ago, a cooking trip with my mom, and we were in the car with our guide, and I happened to mention that I love olive oil. Next thing I know, this was not in our itinerary, she brought us to an olive oil mill where they were pressing the first harvest of the year. So they know stuff like that. They just know everyone, and they can make those connections for you and make things happen. They can get you in places early if you want. You know, Gonzalo was saying that there are places you can get into early or after hours if you want. And especially places like Versailles, which are usually packed. My guide, Isabel, there that Jennifer connected me with, she can get you into rooms that other people can't get into. They know stuff that you wouldn't. Even if I've been to a place a million times, you know, imagine the things a local knows and what they can do for you. So I always use a guide. Anyone else, I know, Brooke, you've traveled with guides, certainly Wendy, you have too. Please chime in on the amazing value that they add to an experience.
I think you said it well. And I know you also did some independent travel when in various places. So we have another question. If you're traveling independently, what do you need to do to find out whether a day trip, a restaurant, or neighborhood is safe? What did you do when you were on your own to kind of make sure you were feeling comfortable where you were?
Yeah, the first thing I would say to that is you have to figure out how you personally define safe, right? I'm vaccinated. I'm comfortable with certain things. I knew what those were, and I certainly learned as I was going. So I asked my guide if I had one. I asked locals, but mostly I just went and looked. You know, and I thought, well, if I go into a place and I'm not comfortable, I'll leave. And that didn't happen at all. And I mentioned before, I took a train between Barcelona and Madrid, and I won't say I was concerned, but I was curious about what that was going to be like. Am I going to be packed like in a New York City subway with people who may, you know, I don't know if they're vaccinated? What's that going to feel like? And my thought was, well, I'll go and see. And if for some reason I'm not comfortable, I'll get off the train. So you kind of just go and see. It ended up, it was totally fine. I booked a quiet car, which is a great tip, by the way. It was, not only was it quiet, but it was much more empty because everybody else wants to be on their cell phone. And that means people weren't talking and breathing. But it was great. So most of it was just sort of going and seeing and figuring it out, and knowing that if I needed an alternative, I could find it.
Billy, one more question for you, because you've actually gone to a country as a fully vaccinated traveler and gotten in with that vaccination. We have a lot of questions about, does the CDC card qualify? You know, how does that work? Can you talk a little bit about your experience in Greece, where there's no testing required because you were fully vaccinated?
Yeah, I must say, I was so proud of my card. Like I had it, and I saw someone else ask in the chat box about bringing like your real card versus a photo. I brought my real card. I wasn't worried about losing it. I don't lose my passport. It's like the same thing. It just became part of my, you know, my document package. But I brought the real thing, thinking that a photo may or may not suffice. I don't know how countries are going to deal with it, but so that was fine. Every place I was asked for, the CDC card was accepted. It all went smoothly. I mean, all of my transitions and logistics went smoothly. Some countries and again, I landed in France the day that they opened to travelers, and it was still super smooth. But I imagine that some of the steps or checkpoints are probably going to smooth out even more. They'll be a little more regimented as you go. So have your documents ready, have copies, I think hard copies. And from what I've been reading, and Brooke, you can weigh in on this too, because you do a lot of research on this end. A lot of what I'm seeing is that the countries are going to accept what the official document is for the country from which where you're a resident. And in America, that's the CDC card. So that's what I've been using.
Yeah. And it's actually, I mean, the CDC cards are a single source, whereas when people were having to get test results, those were coming from, thousands of different labs across the United States, and everyone looked different. So this is actually kind of a step up, even if the CDC card may not seem as official as other things. Gonzalo, we had a lot of questions about Portugal. One viewer wants to know, what about visiting vineyards in Portugal, agriturismos, are spas open, are hotels open? Can you tell us a little bit about those aspects of travel? Oh, I think he might be frozen.
I lost my internet connection, but I'm back, and I completely missed your question. Sorry.
Sorry, no worries. So how about visiting vineyards and agriturismo locations in Portugal? And are spas open, and are all hotels open, or are some still holding off?
As far as wineries are concerned, the answer is yes. There's even a couple that remain closed throughout the pandemic, and they've been shooting me emails saying, "Hey, we're open and we're fully functional." It's perfectly fine. They're all working. Smaller hotels are all back in business. And one thing that actually is really great for US travelers that are trying to make their way to Portugal in the next upcoming month is that the UK government had recently Portugal on the green travel corridor. It was the only country for some reason that was on their green travel corridor. And they've actually, after the Champions League soccer final, hosted by two British teams, but that's not getting into politics. So they had a safe place to play it. And then the next Monday, they've closed the green travel corridor. So what happens is that the UK travelers, they cannot get out of the UK as far as Portugal is concerned. So many of these places, like the wineries in the Douro Valley, the small inns and the agriturismos and things like that were full of British travelers during the summer, they have none. And it's not because of Portugal, it's because of the UK restrictions.
And this is a question for all of you. Gonzalo, maybe you can answer first. Some people are wondering, are there deals to be had? If hotels have empty rooms, is travel less expensive right now?
Yeah, in all honesty, it is. I've been noticing that as far as Portugal is concerned, that's the case of 2021, especially because things were getting up in terms of pricing because of the UK market, and hotels were so desperate to make some money that they really started to put prices high up. And then the UK government said, hey, okay, no more travel to Portugal, and prices dropped right away for 2021, which is not the case for 2022. Prices seem to be back at the normal level for 2022.
Interesting. How about travel discounts elsewhere? Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
Sure. Well, with Malta, anyway, really anywhere almost in the Mediterranean, you're going to have lower numbers in hotels. So naturally, the rates this year versus the previous years are lower. But there's also room for negotiation as well. And we're seeing many hotels having different rates that people really should take advantage, and we take advantage for them.
Awesome. And how about when do you all think the crowds will be coming back? Some people maybe already have plans for the summer, but are thinking about fall travel. Do you all anticipate that smaller crowds will persist into the fall?
No,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's sorry, Gonzalez. It's a little bit of a guessing game right now. We hope to see a lot more travelers in Malta, for example, but we'll still see a lighter load this year, and definitely see a great pickup next year. But it's a great time to travel, for sure.
I would also say
Yeah.
most bookings we see are coming in for 22 and not 21. So I recommend everybody to use this last few months of this year to catch up for what was missed the past 1.5.
Jennifer, there's a question about Italy's Green Pass. Is that a requirement that US travelers need to get before they come into Italy? Is that something they need when they're there?
Not right now, no, because they haven't really figured it out yet. So right now it's just for the citizens of Italy. There's a huge population of people either that were vaccinated through their embassies or expats like me who went back to America to get vaccinated. And they still haven't figured out how we can add our vaccinations to that digital health pass. So it's not a requirement as of right now.
And I wonder if you might be able to answer this question. I know you also handle France and travel arrangements there. Can you take trains between countries? As a US traveler, could someone go from Italy to France, say, on a train?
Absolutely.
How does that work?
Yeah, we've already had clients in the last few weeks traveling between France and Italy without any problems at all. And I think now that Switzerland is opening, there won't be any problem between France and Switzerland, Italy to Switzerland, not at all, no problems.
Do the trains stop at the border? If you need, like in France, you would need to show test results. Is that how does that
Technically, you should show it when you're boarding the train or maybe on board, but it's very much on an honor system. The one train that I will say that, and the one airport that I would say right now that people should probably avoid if you're connecting, because I did see a question about connecting flights, I would avoid London, because currently you have to quarantine if you enter Italy, if you pass through London. So anyone connecting in London, I would tell them to connect elsewhere, connect in anywhere in the EU, connect in Amsterdam, Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, Lisbon, but do not connect in London.
That's a really smart point. I know Nina mentioned that unvaccinated children can come into Switzerland with their vaccinated parents. I know we have a lot of viewers who may have children who are under 12 and not yet eligible to be vaccinated. Can you all speak to whether those families can come in together to your destinations?
Absolutely. Negative PCR tests. And I think if it's 6 and under, you don't need any documentation.
And it's 5 and under in Malta.
And Gonzalo, how about children coming into Portugal?
Children are not required to have any vaccine because at this point it's going to change any week now. But at this point, everyone still needs to present a negative PCR test, regardless if they're vaccinated. So that's going to change.
And that's just a Malta note. That's also the same in Malta. We're looking at July the 1st for an EU-wide certificate scheme for free movement, but for all other travelers outside of that, until vaccine certificates are recognized of other countries, you need to show a negative PCR test.
I'm just scrolling through the questions here. I know there are a couple more that have come in. Wendy, do you feel free to?
Well, there's a question here that I'm dying to ask Jennifer. It came in from a reader. What are the advantages in having a trusted travel expert on the WOW list book a Lake Como villa versus doing it myself? She's looking at springtime, and so I'd love to hear your answer to that, because I think I can think of many ways, but I'd love to hear what you have in mind.
I have seen people that we work with over the years book things that are fraudulent on the internet. So I'm always very skeptical for anyone to book anything through a source that they are not sure of. I know of clients that have showed up at villas and showed up at apartments, and they either weren't real or they were occupied by the owners. So that's number one for me. But number two is the fact that we know the owners, we know the villas, we know the location, we know the destination. We are on site. We operate 24/7, phone numbers for when you're here. We'll help you plan everything that you need before you arrive, during your stay. We do the food shopping. We bring in the chefs and the cleaners. I saw a villa rented by somebody a couple of years ago, and they stipulated how many rolls of toilet paper they put in the villa, and they didn't change the towels and things like this. So I don't know. I mean, I personally don't think that that's the way that you would want to travel to Italy, but you could have a good experience too. But I think it's always best to go through somebody that is trustworthy, reputable, that they have the knowledge, the relationship, and that they're on the ground.
And what would you say is the difference for hotels as well? Because a trusted travel expert, a true destination specialist who's on the wow list is going to make a huge difference when it comes to the experience you'll have at hotels. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Jennifer?
My husband's a hotelier. I used to be a hotelier. Whenever I don't know a hotel, I go see it personally. I know hotels that, if they get an Expedia booking or they get a booking online, that is not preferential. That's not a booking that they'll put in their best room or their best suite. But if it's coming through a travel advisor, or if it's coming through a TTE, somebody like us, they will, VIP that client, they'll note that client, they'll put them in the best room category, they'll upgrade them if there's availability. It's just a very personalized, more, it's a better experience overall. When you book on, any of these, online travel OTAs, they're going to just, the entry-level category, and that's it.
Nina, do you have anything to add about that? I mean, because hotels in Switzerland can be very expensive. And I just think there's a big difference between booking it yourself versus using somebody who is so plugged in, has close relationships with the hotel managers.
And it's also the consultancy to know what is the right hotel for your type of traveler. Because if you go through an OTA, you just have such a huge amount, but maybe one of us would know the boutique family-run hotel that you wouldn't even find when you go through the research. And also, besides the whole treatment that is that you are somebody, it is the consulting around. It's also telling you maybe, hey, I recommend you to take this room because then you have the corner view, so you will have this side and this side, or you won't be above the pool where people are loud. So I really think it's the value of a consultant. And Wendy once wrote it in a very beautiful way. She said, you can just go to any ordinary restaurant, or you can go to Michelin star or Gourmillon or whatever restaurant. So any travel will be good, but the trip booked with a trusted travel expert might just be better. And once you're traveling, you will not know what the better would have been, which is sometimes the difficulty. But once you experience it, you will understand, or maybe you won't even realize that that's the mean thing, because it's just the flawlessness and the little attention to detail. And maybe if you book that villa with Jennifer, that you have a little surprise or a little something on your bed once you arrive, or just something that will spice it up.
Yeah, I think one huge difference is the views you get from hotel rooms,
Yes.
right? I mean, oh my gosh, the difference. Every hotel has the lousy view that looks over like the dingy internal courtyard with the pipes clanking all night long. And then it also has the gorgeous panoramic view with the private terrace, right? And I mean, that's how you get the great rooms with the great views. And isn't that what we all want? I mean, my gosh, if you're especially in Europe, my favorite kinds of hotel rooms are the ones where you can sightsee from your room. Like you can look off your balcony, or out your huge window, and with the boats going by and the people strolling by, it's like you can experience and soak up a place without even leaving the room. And then of course, that is, of course, you do leave the room, but I mean, the point is, there's such a huge difference among hotel rooms. And I think that the view, it's one of those things that we all care about, but a lot of travelers don't really understand the truly significant differences that exist, you know. I could go on, and I realize we're now at our time. We've reached our time limit. I want to thank all of you so much for joining us today. I know there are a lot of other questions. We are going to, but you know, a lot of these questions, actually, it's very much the same question over and over, like, what are the requirements? You know, what are the logistics? What's the testing? What's needed for this country, that country? We're keeping all of our readers up to date on that. All you need to do, I mean, I'm sure that Billy has put the link in the chat box, but if you just go to WendyPerrin.com and you look at this article that Brooke updates every day, the countries that are open to US travelers now, and what you'll find there. It's got every country that's open, what the requirements are, everything you need to know in like it's a one-stop shop of an article. You know what, we'll send you all a letter tomorrow with the link to that article so that you all will have easy access to it. As I say, we're updating it every day. So
as we get off this call, I have to add the Netherlands. They just opened. So
cool. Very cool. Yeah, every day there's another country opening, and that's why I'm so glad we have this opportunity to let you all know. So Gonzalo, Damon, Jennifer, Nina, thank you so much for staying up late. I know it's late your time over there in Europe. Thank you so much for joining us and helping to answer all of these burning questions. And have a lovely rest of your evening. And thank you to all the travelers for joining us. And you can see this on at WendyPerrin.com. We'll have the video online for everybody who missed it. Thanks so much,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.